Okay, so if you're looking for the shadow here and you kind of want that shadow, you can really lightly sketch that in, map out your shadow. They have like a little bit of a darker pink here that goes up and around the body. And we also have some right here on the leg for the shadow on the leg. Some here on your elbow. This is going to be like your paint by numbers. And when I say paint by numbers, I mean it's going to be your key on which area is going to have a certain amount of layers of ink and which area is going to have a certain amount less. It looks like there's just a little hint right here in between the ear, where the ear kind of folds over. There's just a little hint on top of the head. Okay, so what I'm thinking here, my friend, is probably one layer for the light pink, two layer for the dark pink, right? Let's try it. Let's try it. So we're going to go back in a sideways diagonal hatch fashion. I mean, unless you want, they're not really that fuzzy, so if it was super fuzzy, I would encourage us to kind of do like the squiggly, whatever, the scribblies, but they're really not that fuzzy. Their fur is super close to their skin, right? So we're probably going to do the sideways diagonal hatch. Normally in a regular pig body, this would be less curvy, less characterized, or what have you, but we're kind of doing cartoon lately. We've been doing a lot of realism. Let's take a breather from that. But I'm going to make sure that my lines are a little bit spaced out, and I'm literally, to help me get a lighter line, I might just hold my pen on the end here, depending on how intense of a drawer you are. I like to carve my heart and soul into the paper, so sometimes I change the position of my pen to help me avoid doing that. This is something that you got to figure out on your own. What works best for you? You just want some space between these lines because we're not really going into it hardcore yet. Avoid your eyeball whites. These are going to be completely white. Gosh, your viscera, I think, is what the scientific terminology is for that white part in your eye. And if you feel comfortable, you can start adding layer 2 in the areas that you've mapped out, moving in the opposite direction. This is a cross diagonal hatch. It helps close up that white. Still go super light though. You can adjust your pen so it's in the middle. Your hands in the middle of your pen if you want to, whatever works best for you. But we're literally going super light here. Now your pencil line is going to throw you off. Your pencil line is going to make it look darker than what it really appears. Just go with it. I promise we're going to erase that here in a minute. But we want to make sure that our stuff's completely dry before we even consider erasing that, right? Because that'd be super sad. You spend all this time drawing this cute little pig and then you get ink everywhere. I would add at least another secondary layer to all of your hoof on each leg because brown is significantly darker than pink. add a third layer on those hooves here in a minute. Because obviously they're not even like minutely close to each other. They're like super different. Let's try to end your line or your shading right next to the line that you've drawn for your map. So that way when we erase, it all comes together. They all end in the same spot. Don't forget the outside of your eye. They kind of have a shadow there to help your eye pop out from the pig's face. And a very, very thin secondary layer to the outside of your nose to help establish that you have a snout here. Because once we erase our line, you're not going to have that anymore. That pencil line is going to be gone. So just add a really thin layer to the edge of your snout line. Same thing with your cheek, your chest, wherever you might have the edge of the pig stand out. You just want like a little thin layer to help distinguish that, because guess what, friend? We're going to get rid of this pencil line here in a minute. I might have to adjust it. That's okay. And we're just feathering that in. We're not pressing too hard. We're not outlining. Oop, I forgot my little forehead here. We're literally just establishing that there's an edge to the shape here. Your brain will do the rest. You don't have to outline. Your brain will separate it. I promise. Don't forget that third layer for your hooves. And for your eyelids, let's put that in there. I'm going to go in the opposite direction now. Crisscross. Crisscross, crisscross, everybody to the right. Clap, 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 clap. The cha-cha slide. To the left, to the left, to the right, to the right. Everybody clap your hands. Way too many wedding dances or wedding parties, my friend. I'm scarred for life. Alright, let's get that third layer in the eye. Oh, and the mouth. I want a mouth, right? You want a mouth, right? Oh dear. Can't forget them eyebrows. And you'll notice that you got some shadows in your hooves. You remember when you put your secondary layer in your legs? Well, you're just going to add another layer right here underneath there. You see what I added that? Making it a little bit darker. Let me zoom in. Everybody clap your hands. Holding it. And there's literally like a little, this area is a little bit darker than that area. So just add a little layer of darkness there. Auto focus, please. Thank you. Same thing here. You kind of want it to line up with the area that has the secondary layer of ink on the leg. If you're working with pen, take an eraser and clean up all the pencil lead that you have on your paper. Make sure that your ink is nice and dry before doing this. If you're using pencil, then just skip this step. That's a-okay. I'm going to kind of fine tune. I don't like how my eraser kind of killed my drawing here. So I'm just going to fine tune my stuff here. For some reason, I think my eraser like picked up some of my paper surface and like ran off with it because it's doesn't look great. So right now I am going through, after I erased all that extra pencil line, I'm going through and I'm fine tuning. I'm seeing what edges need to be redefined using my pen. This is super important because after a while your pencil line is going to disappear with age, and it's going to make your picture look faded and not crisp and not as well defined. So, in order to prevent that, it's best to get rid of the pencil line and then add what needs to be added for clarity using your pen. So, that is what I'm doing right now. But if you're using pencil, don't worry about erasing your pencil line, obviously. Just go in with a darker pencil and just add the touch ups wherever necessary. And once I get rid of my extra line here, you'll notice that the shadow actually defines the edge of the body, not the outline. That's kind of why I do it in pen. But this class is used for both. You could use pen for your artwork, you could use ink. It's literally a drawing class. You could use charcoal. All these steps work for either or. I just like to use pen so I can take my eraser and kind of lighten up the areas that I have here. And that, my friend, is how to draw a pig and how to shade it using contour outlining.